Welcome back to my channel, friends. This is your Govindraj. In this video I will give you a brief highlights about Code on Social Security 2019. As you know, this code is recently tabled in the Lok Sabha and there are indications that the government would like to implement all the labor codes in one go, and more likely that the pending codes will get passed in the next budget session. I would also take this opportunity to thank all the viewers and subscribers of my channel for the continued trust and support. Let's proceed. In this code, there are 9 legislations are subsumed which are related to employees compensation, employee state insurance, employees provident fund, employment exchange, compulsory notification of vacancies, the maternity benefit, payment of gratuity, senior workers welfare fund, and also the building and other construction workers welfare cess, the Unorganized Workers Social Security Act 2008. If you look at these 9 legislations, there were 250 sections and followed by 10 schedules. Now these are amalgamated into 163 sections and 6 schedules. For the applicability of the code, the definition of establishment is very important and key for the application. Section 229 of the code defines establishment. The establishment means a place where any industry, trade, business, manufacture or occupation is carried on, or a factory, motor transport undertaking, newspaper establishment, audio-visual production, building and other construction work, or plantation, a mine, or dock work. As I said, this is the key definition, as the application of the code depends on this definition. The code covers both organized and unorganized sector employees. The applicability of the code is now consolidated in the first schedule. However, there are few exceptions available and also additional coverage is provided in the code. The applicability of the Provident Fund and its related scheme are enlarged and applicable to all establishments in which 20 or more employees are employed. If you look at the original legislation, EPF and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952, it had a Schedule 1. Now the Schedule 1 has been dropped as it has lost the relevance. And the ESI provisions are also enlarged and applicable to establishment in which 10 or more employees are employed. However, the ESI provisions are not applicable to seasonal factory, which is continued as it is. However, an establishment which carries hazardous or life-threatening occupation is covered under ESI provisions. Even a single employee is employed. This provision is looked to be new because there were no earlier such provisions. The applicability of payment of gratuity and maternity benefit provisions are continued as provided in the respective statutes. The employees' compensation provisions are retained as it is and also applicable to employees who are not covered under ESI provisions and subject to the employment category listed in the second schedule. This second schedule was also available in the original act and it is retained as it is with few additions. The building and construction work is applicable to all kinds of constructions. However, there are exclusions are provided if a building or a factory or mine employing less than 10 workers or any building or other construction work related to own residential property are excluded from the code. However, with regard to residential property, it will have number of employees for coverage which the central government will prescribe from time to time. The Social Security for unorganized sector workers now covers gig workers and also platform workers. This is one of the new thing in the code. The gig workers and platform workers are covered in the Social Security schemes. I will talk about gig workers and platform workers in my next video. Keep watching this channel for updates on this. The important thing is that the code or the legislation is looking into the new employment dynamics and trying to cover those employments also. The compulsory notification of vacancies covers all establishment. However, the fixing the date of enforcement is left to the appropriate government. Earlier, in the case of private establishment, it was covered establishment having 25 or more persons. Now there is no such applicability. The code extends to all employees including administrative staff, supervisor and managers. The wage ceiling criteria for applicability of ESI and PF provisions is continued. However, this wage ceiling is not notified in the code. This wage ceiling will be notified by the central government from time to time. For the applicability of employee compensation is limited to the employees engaged in the industries or occupations listed in the second schedule, as I explained already. And as I said, gig workers and platform workers are covered under unorganized sector, and social security provisions are extended to such workers also. Wage definition is kept similar to other codes. If you would like to know about the complexity of the wage definition, please watch my video on this topic related to wage code. And with regard to the registration of establishment, every establishment is required to register under the code. However, if there is any existing registration under any other labor law, it will be deemed as registration under the code. They are not required to register separately. The current social security organizations like Central Board of Trustees in case of PF, Employee State Insurance Corporation in case of ESI, State Building Workers Boards which are constituted under the Building Workers Act will continue as social security organizations. The provisions related to Provident Fund and its schemes are largely retained. However, there is a proposal to reduce the contributions. If you would like to know more about this reduction in contributions and other changes, please watch my video on this topic which is already available in this channel. The ESI and its benefit schemes are largely continued. The rate of contributions are not prescribed in the code. However, the central government will prescribe these rates from time to time. Another important change which is noted is both ESI and PF provisions makes principal employer responsible for payment of PF and ESI contributions in case of contract workers also. This provision requires a detailed interpretation. Please keep watching this channel for more updates on this topic. Now it is more likely that the ESI benefits will get extended to the unorganized sector employees, which includes gig workers and platform workers, as the section 45 of the code provides power to the central government to frame scheme for unorganized sector employees. The eligibility and calculation in case of gratuity is largely retained as per the original regulations. However, the gratuity should also be paid for fixed term employees on pro rata basis even though they have not fulfilled the eligibility criteria. As you may know, the fixed term employment is allowed in the IR code. If you would like to know major highlights on the IR code, please watch my video on IR code. The provisions related to maternity benefit and employee compensation are also retained largely compared to the original statute. However, the maximum compensation ceiling in case of employee compensation will be now prescribed by the central government from time to time. If we look at the earlier legislation, there were maximum compensation provided in the Act. The building cess rate is fixed at not exceeding 2% but not less than 1% of the cost of construction. The Social Security Fund and schemes will be rolled out for unorganized sector employees. The recovery of dues in case of ESI and PF will now have a limitation of 5 years from the date on which such amounts are alleged to have been due from an employer. You may know that earlier this limitation was available in the ESI provisions. However, there were no direct provisions in the case of Provident Fund. The employment exchange is now renamed as career centers, and the provisions for graded penalties and damages are provided in line with the other codes. There are a number of changes provided in the code, friends. It requires time to explain. Therefore, please keep watching this channel for more updates on the specific topic. If you have any doubts or clarification, you can always get in touch with me. My coordinates are provided in this video. Thank you very much, friends, and see you soon.